Hi there. I want to talk about transitioning between stages of life and why it's an important thing to consider, as you go about your day to day. A lot of people tend not to think about their place in the universe or their place in society. Sometimes it may cross their mind, but a lot of times people are, and I'm speaking for myself as well, are very just kind of enraptured in just the day to day, the doldrums, whether that's like an office job or school or, going to the gym, just the repetitive habits that we instantiate in our lives. And so when you think about where you are in life, there are usually different periods that there's a transitioning point. A lot of times when it's like you're a young kid, you believe in Santa Claus, like it's all about toys and fun, and there's not a care in the world. And then you got to go to school, and then you got to start doing homework. And then you reach puberty, and then it's about, other people and, more social activities. And then you go to college, and then it's just like it's more intensive, still very social, but you're now older and you have more experience. And then college ends, and then you have to just start considering, like, okay, I need to get a full-time job. And I really got to start considering what it's like to meet another person that I can start a family with. And all these different kind of, semi-clear examples of transitions in life just goes to show that sometimes people will take a lot of time to transition. And that's kind of the point of this video, is to just kind of allow yourself that, grace, understanding, what have you, that when you're transitioning, it might not be this seamless process where it's like, okay, I'm 29, now I'm 30, nothing's happened. When I turned 30, I'm just like, okay, now this is a whole new ball game. It's like I've been there, done that. Like I have to get things in order. I gotta like start moving in a certain way. And it's just a number, right? It's just this, artificial construct that we put on our, aging process. But it does go to show that it's like, okay, now due to society, due to the human condition, I have to begin thinking of certain things a little bit differently. I can't necessarily go out and party all the time. There are some people who do it. There are some people who just like shirk that, and they're like, I'm going to live out my midlife crisis my entire life. I'm just going to have fun all the time. And if that's what you want to do, by all means. But for the general person, having these transitions, having these points of, growth and maturation, they can be very stark. They can be very, a lot of us aren't very impervious to them. They have an effect on us. And so, at least when I was growing up, like through middle school and high school, there was this whole notion of growing pains. Like I was very dedicated to the sport of basketball, and I would give everything for it. And then over time, I just began to lose more and more interest. And I was like, what? This doesn't make any sense. But then when I think back when I was a kid, I loved Legos. And then all of a sudden, one day, I didn't really care that much about Legos. And so understanding that like we're constantly in this evolutionary flux of acquiring new skills, of learning new things, and just letting old things go, you have more of an understanding and a respect for the human condition. And this has, a lot of really good benefits. It makes you more relaxed. It makes you more personable because you're not caught off guard by these shifts in reality. I kind of mentioned it earlier, but this whole idea of like a midlife crisis occurs because people think like, oh God, like my life is basically over. I need to start living. I need to start doing things. And if you can kind of pre-visualize or predetermine where those stages of life are, whether it's having your first child, whether it's getting married, whether it's, getting promoted, then you can prepare yourself where it's like, okay, what kind of responsibilities or behaviors do I need to adopt to move into them seamlessly? And that's easier said than done for sure. But a lot of the entirety of this video is to just kind of suggest that you have to kind of respect the process, be relaxed in the transition, not freak out. Aging is just a normal part of the human experience. And unless, all these longevity people crack the code to the antidote of life and we all get to, live extensively on into the future, we have to understand and respect just our biology as it stands now. And these stages of life sometimes can be very, again, powerful and kind of uncomfortable. But growing pains, while they may have pain in the name, the end result is that you're growing. And so this might not be a super specific, point that I'm trying to impart to you out there, but it's just to notice that like when you're transitioning between points of life, whether you're a child to a teenager, to a young adult, to an adult, to a senior and things like that, just roll with the punches, enjoy the process, understand that even if you're getting older, age is just a number, that every stage of life has important lessons to gain from, and that you're only growing in your experiences, your relationships, your abilities, and your growth overall is just evolving you into a much more seasoned and wonderful person because of it. There's a funny joke that somebody said that like, even if you have a bunch of PhDs, you're nothing compared to the person who works a menial job for minimum wage, because that person who's working that menial job, they have experiences, they have, hard work to back what they've done. And of course, the PhDs, they're fine too, but it basically goes to show that it's like having a wealth of experiences through the different stages of life just adds to your character and it adds to your development and makes for a much better life overall. So I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one.